Hello and welcome to this edition of Most Actives with Bootleg Macro. I'm Dustin. We're going to take a look at Apple. This is one of the most highly traded stocks in all of the US market, and we can see on the weekly here it essentially had a similar ride to a lot of stocks during 2020, all the way up to its highs in 2021 at the very end here. It's essentially gone sideways ever since through 2022 and the beginning of 2023, essentially. We did see a low here to be respected. It looks like around 130. Back in 2022, we saw the same low respected in June of 2022, and now we find ourselves kind of at a new high potentially. We are getting up to a level that looks like it's essentially been holding. It looks like the high of 182, somewhere in there, maybe in the 170s now, has really been the level that's been holding back Apple. So we'd like to see it break through if we can. Looking on the daily, we can see that we had a very large candle today. Obviously, a very high up. It looks like we got a bounce off of this. It looks like 160 level. Now we closed at a level of 165. That is a pretty good move in one day. Obviously, a nice candle to see. We'll go ahead and look at the sentiment overall. The daily sentiment here on this indicator, this is a representation of the percent of bullish and bearish price action. So right now it is 46% bearish. It is 53% bullish. That's really positive. The one thing that doesn't look great is that the bearishness is shooting below this moving average, and it looks like the bullishness is starting to recede. The problem with this indicator generally is that it is an oscillator, so you can't go above 60%, and you really can't go below around 40%. So, knowing that we just came off a 60% high of bullishness, we would expect a mean reversion, at least back down. So, today was incredibly surprising based on that price action of Apple. We can see on the weekly, we've essentially gone nowhere. It's just meandering around this 50% where bearishness and bullishness are kind of playing a tug of war. But there's no serious moves that we're expecting to see based in the sentiment here. Like when we were looking and seeing new highs here in September of 2021, we were hitting 60%. We hit 61% in December of 2021, which was the high. And essentially, since then, we've just gone back and forth around 50%. We can look at the volume here. The volume's essentially been falling recently. It looks like we continue to trend lower under 500 million shares being traded each week. And we haven't hit 500 million shares traded in a week since December of 2022, not even once in 2023. Now let's look at the daily volume. It looks like, again, volume continues to fall. We are falling under 100 million shares traded each day. So volume is really falling inside of Apple, which is an interesting thing to see. We'll go ahead and look at the volatility to price. So this red is volatility. Blue is the correlation of price to volatility. We do see that it looks like volatility is rolling over and correlation is rolling over. That's actually slightly positive, because if correlation is negative and volatility is falling, then price should rise. Now we can look on the weekly. On the weekly, we can see that volatility is essentially hit, hopefully, a weekly low. This is a zero bounded indicator, so it can't go below zero. Right now, we are at 0.77 for volatility, and for the correlation, we are currently negative. What we'd most likely expect would be that volatility would create one of these hills, like you already see in the blue here. So it should shoot up. If correlation is negative, that actually would be quite negative, because if correlation is getting more negative as volatility is rising, price will fall. Now let's look at the non-sentiment trade range here for Apple. Based on what we see for volatility, I would be inclined to think that Apple's going to fall here. It is at the top of its range. It looks like $170 has been the top of its range. It looks like it could go as low as 122. We'll find out what happens with that. Let's look at the daily sentiment trade range. Nothing really different. We see it near the top of its high. 169 is the top of the range, and the bottom is 150. I'd be really cautious with Apple here. It has essentially been riding the top of its range recently, but it still will always mean revert to a certain extent back down to the bottom of its range, at least to the middle. It looks like it kind of got close to the middle there, but it looks like now at 165, you're really, really close to what we would expect to be the top, especially if we continue to see the top of the range continuing to fall. I want to go ahead and look at the daily raw data here. The reason why I like to look at this gives a really holistic view of the data that's feeding into all these graphs and charts. Right here we have price. Since we see price on the 13th right now, it is at $165. I'll go ahead and zoom in to make it a little bit easier to see. We see that price is at $165. Essentially, what we see is that we've had a series of go long signals. It looks like since March 17th. But what we do see is we start to see bearishness creeping into the very near term indicators. If we see bearishness on the long term indicator, that would be a very negative sign. We do still have go longs, but as you can tell, volume is falling. Price has not yet started to fall at all, even on these rolling 6 month, 3 month, 1 month, 15-day, or 5-day or 1 day. We are really close on the 5-day. If we were down 1% or so tomorrow, we could see it be a negative week. And then we are also getting close relative here on the 15-day, but we'll find out what happens on Friday. Apple's in a really interesting place, especially with the technicals. I don't know what's going to happen with the fundamentals, but I think earnings are going to be happening soon, so that could definitely start to freak people out. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Are you long? Are you short? Do you like it? Do you love it? No matter what you do, go ahead and hit that like button. Have a great day.